Here we go. All right. I'll be right back. I'm going to tag you. Oh, there we are. All right. Danijel. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, we got 6 people in the house. They're coming. Let's see. All right. Boom. Okay, here we are, March 19th, Northern Hemisphere, March 20th in the Southern Hemisphere. We got a new friend here, Danijel. In the Netherlands by way of Croatia. He comes recommended from a sister. I believe that's how it happens. I can't remember. There's so much going on. I believe a sister reached out to me and said, I need to talk to you. And then you sent me some stuff that you're working on, that you were purposely driven to be following. And here we are getting to know each other just like typical soulogy style, without any rehearsal or anything like that. We're just going to get to know each other in front of a bunch of people. So welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming in and sharing space and honoring us with your presence.
Yes, I really appreciate the invitation and the time you have invested into this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. So, obviously we don't know anything about each other. This is not a normal podcast or interview form. All right. I just want you to know that. Because sometimes I get comments every few days, and somebody put up a comment the other day, some lady, because I was doing her friend, and she's like, stop interviewing yourself. I thought, I've been doing this 4,500 shows, 9 years. It's always been a two-way conversation. So if you want to ask questions, you can ask questions too. It's literally like we're having a cuppa and just happen to be a bunch of people watching. But, the famous question on the show is, have you always been this weird, or did you have a wake-up experience?
My personal experience is I've always felt the odd one out. The briefest story is after my granddad passed, we came together and we talked, and he said to me, like, you were always the odd one out in the family. Like, he had 6 children. He had quite a few, like, grandchildren, and, like, he couldn't figure out how I fitted because I was unlike the rest. So, yeah, for me, it was quite early on, and the gift of that is that you get a lot of repetitions of practice of just owning it. So rather than letting it define you, as you choose it as your character. Yeah, and that comfort with the weirdness links to the courage to just keep being yourself. Yeah. So I'm not gonna say it's not getting weirder over time though. Even I find myself going, oof.
Even the weirdos, yeah. Things are getting wild things are getting weird when the weirdos think they're getting weird. So it sounds like your grandfather had some kind of intuition. When he recognized something different was something different in you. Was something different in him?
Yeah. I wouldn't know. he was a very, very old-fashioned Bosnian man. So very, very old-fashioned. Like they only had power and water when I moved to Croatia in '74, I think it was. So until 1974, they lived in Bosnia in the middle, like in Kakanj, and there was a river 200 meters down the road, down the hill from the house, like until '73, right? So he was and he was a miner, so he worked in the coal mines, and he also worked in coal mines in Germany and made a little bit for a pension, and that helped support. But he was very old fashioned, and it's interesting the things you learn from a person like that because one of his favorite quotes, and my dad was the same, was like, "You can move anything with the right lever and the right fulcrum point." And I always thought that was a physical thing, and then I realized, no, I can use that same tool mentally or emotionally. It's a multi-aspect
That's
tool,
good.
multi-dimensional tool.
Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
advice. That's good advice because that's very true. Leverage has a. There's a lot to say about that. Yeah, energetically
yeah,
and literally. So did
yeah,
you?
yeah.
When did you realize? When did okay? Let me put it to you a different way. When did you realize that something, you know, something was going to happen in this world, or something was happening in this world? You know, when did you realize that this
Oh yeah,
isn't a
that's easy.
normal? Yeah.
That's quite easy. Chernobyl was 100% a wake-up thing when I was 7, because it was a very real risk
What year?
where
What
we
year was
lived.
Chernobyl?
And
Early '90s? Was that early '90s?
80, 86, 86, I
86.
think.
So right
Yeah,
before the harmonic convergence in '87.
yeah. And then the Berlin Wall came down, and then you could feel, well, I could feel, in Croatia, you could feel that something ugly was coming. And we had some family that left to live in Croatia, so went to live in South Africa. So we moved to South Africa for 3 years, and it was the 3 years right around the switch from apartheid. So my high school, like I began in a mixed high school for the first time in the history of the country type thing. And there was another bit in there. There's a book that I got given from a family friend, and it was about Wai'o Tapu and a couple of stories of myths from the Maoris from in New Zealand. And when I found out about New Zealand, I read this book. I feel like I forced my family to move down there. I just did everything we could to drive us to get there, like on every energetic level. And we moved, and it's been wonderful living in New Zealand. And New Zealand really felt like home because there's just something about that land that when you've been there before it and you allow yourself to just be open and stay open and just keep that conversation with the land and the trees and the birds and the bees going, like you if you keep committing to that conversation, to the opening, to the listening, you don't know what's going to come. It just it's just deeply moving. I think
Yeah.
that's a good summary.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that your family was in Croatia
Croatia.
and then
Yeah.
went to Bosnia?
No, so they from Bosnia to Croatia
I'm
where
sorry,
I was born.
went from Bosnia to Croatia, and then
Yeah.
the shit hits the fan, and your family says we're moving to South
Just
Africa. So you
well,
moved to
just before.
huh? Right,
Just
right,
before
right.
it hit the fan.
Yeah, yeah. So then you move to that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So then your family moves to South Africa for 3 years.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
now how old are you? How old are you? 2 3 years.
10 to
Okay.
13.
So you're 10 to
Yeah.
13. You start thinking about New Zealand, and you convince your family to move to New Zealand. Is that what happened?
I mean, when I look back on it now, that's how I tell the story to
Oh, I
myself
see.
because
Energy.
I'm just,
Your energy influenced the situation. Is what you're saying? Yeah, I got you.
oh, yeah.
Okay.
And that was quite conscious because there was nothing that was going to get between me and living in that land. It
So
was
and
just that, yeah.
so how long did you live in New Zealand? Because you're in the Netherlands now, right?
Uh, like 3 decades, basically.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. So you haven't been
Yeah.
gone that long, really?
No, I've been here 3 years, and we had in between, I had a year in the Caribbean and St. Martin as well, because
Ah,
why not?
yeah. Heck yeah.
This is life before kids, right? Like when travel is just easy.
Right, right. So you're doing this now. You got a family now of your own. You've got kids.
Yeah, I have 3 kids here with me, with my wife, and
Oh
then I have
wow.
2 older ones with a previous partner. Yeah,
Congratulations. Congratulations. You almost got me beat. I got
thank you.
6. I got 6. But
Yeah,
s-
people have to be really careful about when they make wishes because I always had this wish when I was younger. I want my own basketball team, and then I ended up with 5 kids. I was like, that's not what I meant.
my grandfather had 7. I always wanted 7. But
Yeah,
so
yeah,
oh wow, this is awesome. Now, when did you start to? Okay, Chernobyl was you were 7 years old. When did you
yeah.
start to come into the
That's easy.
conversations?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
easy. So in New Zealand, my mother had a dear friend. Her name was Robin, and she was I would just call her grandmother because for me, she became my grandmother, and she spent a long time, like a decade, working with me. I would just come over, like I would travel between Auckland and Wellington. I'd stop at her place and stay the night, and we would just have conversations, like hours and hours of conversations. And she was very good at being patient with my ego. Amazing, because I don't know how she didn't just kick me out numerous times. Um, but she was patient because she understood that there was something in there that I was trying to get to, and I had to work through my conditioning to get to that expression. Um, the lady that you talked about before, she feels like another of those, like a grandma energy for me. Just a dear friend who's, yeah, just a dear friend. So the with Robin, it started, and then I got into a lot of books, like a couple hundred books in 3 or 4 years, just devouring information. Because my mum's mum, my grandma, she was a teacher, and the first thing she taught me before I started school was like, don't let school get in the way of your education, because they're 2 different things. And
great.
and
That's
and
great
she was a
advice.
school, well, she was a school teacher for 30 years. So that's interesting when you have that from a school teacher who
Yeah.
was quite successful and retired, and then she spoiled me because I could have any book I want. And just that curiosity, she kept inspiring the curiosity in me, that insatiable appetite, what I call the insatiable appetite for learning. Because when you have that, when you choose to live with that, when you choose to foster that inside of you, the unintended side effect is that that curiosity comes hand in hand with courage. So you don't have to go separately, build up courage if you start with curiosity, in my experience. And that's just a long form practice, like decades of practicing that. But it was things like Celestine Prophecy, it was um, Eckhart Tolle, it was a lot of Dolores Cannon, um, oh, OG, Greg Braden, yeah, just a lot of that. And I wasn't trying to, uh, my experience of reading those books is often I would have the author talking, like reading the book to me in my mind. And my experience would be I'd be feeling and seeing what they were feeling and seeing before they wrote. So I'd be almost having access to that same inspiration that they were sharing. Like the book was just the lead into that inspiration. And that's what I kept reaching out for and feeling for. It's like, what was that inspiration? And then through the hundreds and thousands of examples, like, okay, so there's some common themes. Um, and to try and narrow it down, it's kind of, I would summarize it as law of one or guardianship or no one left behind. And it's returning to that work lifetime after lifetime. And just what does that law of one mean in the time and place we find ourselves? So what I shared with you is a white paper about pricing model, but it's it's just where it is right now.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
end point. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
what you're saying is that as you came into the graces of these grandmothers, and they directed your curiosity. I love what you said about the courage thing, because to me, it's all about stepping through fear, and you don't have to look around very much because it's all over the place, right? Which also means, based on your explanation, which I believe is the courage is available all over the place as well. But anyway, so you
It's hand in hand. It's
that's what
hand
I
in
mean.
hand.
That's what I mean. That's why I love what you said. But so you come across the blessing of these grandmothers, and they guide you. You start to voraciously read. I can relate to this. This is what before internet, because I used to read all the time for about 25 years. But and so you're basically just, to be general, summarizing that period of reading by bringing it down to Ra and the law of one and the principles of that.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you're okay.
It's a good short summary because
Yeah. I
otherwise we're
got
going
you.
to
No,
spend
no. I think
hours.
that's yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for that. Now I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I think there's a little bit of a lag, so we're not interrupting each other,
It's
but it
okay.
should settle down. But so law of one, and then you made a statement, and this statement I've heard go both ways over the years I've been doing this, 14, 15 years. So, and by the way, our friend Dor wants to know why you're in the Netherlands, but we're going to get to that. We haven't quite got there. She's a very good
Oh,
friend, great supporter.
that's
Yeah.
same reason as you. Home is where the heart is, and my
Ah,
wife is Dutch. So,
ah,
so if she comes back here, I'm here. Like that's,
that's right. Well,
that's,
see,
that's the easiest question.
you got the first rule. You got the first rule of ascension down. Mother Goddess. Rule number one: check with Mother Goddess. Rule number two: if Mother Goddess is wrong, check with rule number one. Right? Yeah. But so you said something though, and I've heard people go both ways, and I agree with what you said. Although I changed my mind for about a month when all this stuff was getting all wonky and crazy. The comment, the phrase "no one gets left behind." I always understood that when I reawoke in 2011, and I always believed that. And then about 2 months ago, because I heard people say I heard a lot of people would say, I don't think everybody's going to go. First of all, I'm like, okay, where are we going? Second of all, how can, like God doesn't create trash, right? Like, so how can somebody not make something? How can this be a contest from from the frequencies and the, revelations that I've received and what I've gained from talking to other people? So when you say no one's left behind, I'm getting that you mean this both literally, but also in a metaphoric sense, in the sense that everybody's treated equally, or that type of thing.
Yes, and most specifically, because our life is so drowning in the supply chains of the industrial or the industrialized supply chains, um, we have to participate economically, and we have very few other options. So the paper attempts to open this fair price promise, and in poetic terms, it's a boundary condition. It's an invitation first, and it's a boundary like fence around the infinite field because the point of the game is to keep extending the game. So that's super short, super rough. The thing about No One Left Behind, how I feel it in my experience, and this is just my personal lived experience, this is not other things, is that I often find myself seeing myself in the other. And it doesn't have to be people. So No One Left Behind is, it's, we, okay, how do I put this? The thing about Eden and returning to the garden is that we have to make it. It's not given to us. It's ours to create. And we have somehow maybe forgotten that piece of information. So the invitation is best I know how to honor the law of one in guardianship of no one left behind. This is how I think we can play the next phase of the game to participate in a different experiment. Why I frame things in this manner. I do see myself as a shamanic healer with one distinct difference to most out there. Most treat the individual, and most of the time, my patient is community. So I'm much more fascinated by what is medicine when community is your patient. That has been a fascinating, like, topic in my head rolling through for 7 years now. And I'm just trying to understand because there's no school for this. that you can't just go to a university and study this. And a lot of my feedback is just the morphic field. So I joint emotional body, and because I belong to that, I can feel through that. And the anxieties I see in life is just insecurities, and they almost all have one root, one common root where they come from. Almost all the states of dis-ease we have come from the one root cause, and that's we've forgotten who we are in the sense of our source, where like our ancestry, but more than that, just the source. And when you disconnect from that, and there's lots of reasons, and I don't really want to get into all the labels that people have put on it, but if you look back, if you trace every one of these rabbit holes down, it almost always comes down to disconnecting from source. You forget who you are. You're not, your heart is no longer open, love flowing state. You're in something else. You're in some kind of reaction. It's just, I'm fascinated by how do you do this at a community level, because in New Zealand, what I learned over the 3 decades is the 4th pillar of wellness. So they talk about body, mind, spirit, and they talk about social health. What is the health of your relationship? And for me personally, the way I felt that in my communication with nature was like the first relationship is the one breath we share. The second relationship is the ground we stand on. The third, the water, the animals, the plants, and 6 probably people.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was just
I've always said it over the years on the show. I've always said, like, I think we're going to find out that we're like the low species on the spiritual totem pole. All the animals, the plants, all the nature beings, they all know what's going on. They've been waiting on us. Keep going.
yeah, and very very good. No, so very good lead. Thank you. That is a beautiful lead, because they are waiting for us. Absolutely, they're waiting for us because we have yet to take our place as the dreamers. We have yet to engage the full power of our imagination, understanding what that is, especially when we come together. That's why, to me, this might feel disconnected to others, but to me, the Fair Price Promise is my reflection in today's time of the ancient Essene greeting of peace be with you.
We're going to talk about the fair price thing, okay?
Yeah.
The stuff that
Yeah.
you sent me.
No, yeah. It
No,
just,
no, no,
it's
no.
more just,
I want to talk about it. I want to ease into it a
Yeah.
little bit, though, because in looking at, I've noticed this over the years, because I don't know how many, I know pretty much how many shows we've done, but I would imagine it's probably like well over 3,000 people. And a lot of these people, well, the stories tend to have the same basic structure. The stories are, I knew something when I was born. I knew there was something. There was always this feeling or this connection or this resonance that, and then many people, it was suppressed. Some very few people had a family or family members that were supportive or, that were open to your imaginary friends or, whatever other, psychic phenomena that you might have that you share with your family. And then we have this thing where we go into the world and we want to be like everybody else, which is a whole clusterfuck, right? I mean, we want to fit in and be normal, when we don't realize that the crazy we are and the weirdo that we are is normal and the world is abnormal, right? But then it comes back online, right? It comes back online. And a lot of times when that's come back online, the person starts to receive guidance for a purposeful driven life. In other words, certain things that they want, the you, me, we, and it, the universal family wants to have anchored into the earth, or re-anchored, or redistributed, or brought into to this new awareness. And so this is part of what, and I noticed too that it's so embedded within them that I've got to slow them down so we can understand what the hell they're talking about.
I'm
But
really trying.
no. I want to go there because I found it very fascinating because it wasn't what I thought when I first looked at it. Okay, based on the name, right? But now going back to this part of the guidance that you received that speaks to one of the purposes that you have. The
Yes.
basis, the foundation of it is still based on no one left behind and basically equal treatment for, no hierarchy, equal treatment for all. Is that correct? And if not, can you please expand and explain it?
It it's close. It starts with maybe there's another way of saying it. The things in the world which are deception, mind control, and slavery of all life forms, not just humans, but all life forms. And for me, this is the protection of the spiritual freedom. So for me, it's to reawaken the power within my people, my brothers, my sisters. So I sometimes see myself as the keeper of that, like my brother's keeper or my sister's keeper, because maybe they have forgotten. So for me, it's that not leaving behind like they are. I feel them as my brother and sister. So I can't, how could I leave them behind? Like it's not within the thinking space available to me because that's just not. um, so it's, and it's not necessarily opposition, it's just calling those things out, like raising the awareness of how this is happening. Because we get told stories about our history, we get told stories about what is and what works and what doesn't. And I've been through that. I've done the startups, I've studied business, I've done a number of businesses. It's just fascinating when you enter that space from having started in the nature conversation piece, because you're seeing it with from nature's perspective almost. Like
Yeah.
quite often I will speak for birds, trees, bees, because that's how I sense it. Like they
That's a
guide the conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, this is good. I like this. Okay, so what you're saying is, and I can relate. I probably done about 150 startups, acquisitions, turnarounds. I had a long corporate career and a consulting career. So I get
Yeah.
what you're saying. And I always had a knack for infusing creativity and intuition into the work, and saw the energetic field produce above and beyond the normal
Yeah.
structure, right? So,
High five.
so, so what you're saying is that just to ease into this, okay? What you're saying is that you are applying or reforming or restating, presenting the universal structure of continuity and coherence within, let's just say, the universal family, which in our case, let's just say, to keep it simple, is everything that we can see, touch, and feel that walks and flies on the earth, and the presence has a physical capacity,
Yeah.
detectable.
So
Okay. So
so
and you
very
apply,
specifically, yeah.
yeah. But I'm just saying, and so
Yeah.
you're applying this to what has been traditional, let's just say capitalistic or other socioeconomical structures within the, let's just say, the paradigm. And so your part
Yes.
of what you're doing is reintroducing the natural rhythm and rhyme and design and applying it consciously into the physical density that we're in, something like that.
Yeah. And more specifically, it's an invitation because I want to relate in this manner in the world and I cannot. I am forced to be a consumer and a customer. I cannot be a simple custodian or caretaker or steward or guardian because those roles are just, it's not that they don't exist, but they're not available to everyone equally. And what I was saying before, most specifically, I want to acknowledge and honor all relationships because all those relationships are what make me me. Because if you take the opposite stance, if you take every single relationship away from you, what are you? If you have nothing to relate to, no light, no darkness, no sound, no heat, no cold, nothing, if there's no one else to, or nothing else to relate to, what are you?
You're the void. You're the
Yes,
void.
well, that's
I mean, uh, uh, I don't know. I've never heard it posed that way, but this is a very
so
interesting
that's
conversation.
that's that's my
Yeah.
6 year old. That's my 6 year old thinking right now. I was lying in my bed, going to sleep at night, thinking about this stuff. Scare the shit out of myself. But that's the meditations I would go through. And what I realize is, okay, I'd slight detour. In network thinking, when you value networks, just a basic concept is when you add a node to a network, you double the value of the network, just as a principle thing. The same with if you take a node away, you halve its value. So I just recognizing that principle in life and articulating it into our exchanges. It's like, hey, when you join, we are all worth double. It's social by design. Like when someone joins our network or RTS or whatever project we run or whatever project somebody else wants to run on the platform, because it's invitation, you we just that's how we value your contribution. As you're coming, a node is joining a network node, and we're doubling in value. So it's how do you articulate that in the everyday? And that's why we literally start like in the bathroom. We just do shower products. We put them in reusable containers, and we just do local manufacturing, and the containers
So
stay in
this,
community.
so people know,
Yeah.
this is an actual business
Yeah,
enterprise.
we're setting up. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're setting up
this
now.
is an
It
actual,
just
okay. But the
yeah, it took us
importance,
six.
you're
Yeah.
right. But the importance of it, because again, I've had so many people come on to the show and have purpose-driven guidance, and
Yes.
I've watched this for years, and it's fascinating to me because there's two things that
Yes.
come to my mind. One is that whatever we receive in our personal communication with the universal, let's just say, it's meant for us first. First and foremost, it's meant for ourselves. And if it's the right time, the right place, the right everything, it's shareable. So you can share it to your brothers and sisters. And so there's two aspects here I see. One is when an individual remembers and the stuff gets turned on within them because it is kind of innate and instinctive. They're even if they don't tell anybody, but they bring it in to their awareness and maybe actualize it to some degree in their life. It's available now, essentially, energetically, to the entire world. Okay? And then the second part is kind of interesting to watch, too, because we have been, it's been ingrained in us to measure our results by the old paradigm standards. So, for instance, if it's an internet-based business or enterprise like, say, soulogy, we have this inclination to measure our success by the number of community members or subscribers or views or comments or likes or whatever, right? When the reality is, just like your incredible, I don't want to say concept because I totally get it. When you add one to the whole doubles, which means, because it's the basic math of the universe, which means that we are the other half in each and every scenario. You know what I mean? So this is pretty fascinating. It's very fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So
Well, do you want to know? Can I tell you the short story of
yes,
how I
yes.
arrived at that insight? So we're going to go a little off piste, but not too far. I was doing some shamanic work with drumming and vision quests, and I kept meeting with Anubis, and he kept taking me to the afterlife and kept putting my heart on the scale, and I kept getting stuck there. Like I could see the feather come down the other side, and that was it. And I'm like, and then about the fourth time, I was like, oh, no, too late, motherfucker. You're dead. You cannot affect the scales anymore. No matter how good you are, you can't change it anymore because you're dead. Your heart's out there. And then what I took back with me into my everyday life is like, no, I want every one of my actions to be dynamically rebalancing the whole. Every single, like, and I think my actions being economic transactions, because we live in a world of commerce. I don't want to change the commerce. I'm not interested in changing commerce or what people do and stuff. It's just, can we take a moment to go back to first principles? And can we understand what we're actually pricing and what actually values? And to lead on a little bit, my concept, to borrow your word, is let's put relationship first. Let's put relationship first and everything that means, which is you cannot price it. You cannot price it. So something just priceless. So let's put that aside then. We agree that we acknowledge, we honor, and then we can do the rest of commerce for connection. And then we get this, if you go down the road a little bit, not too far, you get to a point where 1 + 1 does equal 11. Because you get to a point where connection is compounded. So your repetition of half and half and half and half follows another principle found in a book. It talks about, anyway, that's fine. But the idea is I wanted every one of my actions in life to be dynamically rebalanced every time I took it.
So,
Because I didn't want to get to a point where I couldn't change it at the end.
no. First of all, let me say, I wish I had my Anubis, what do you call it, talisman with me. I've had it with me for years. I've met Anubis on several occasions in my conscious awake state, by the way, in Sedona and other places. So I'm very familiar with that energy and that part of us. So really what you're saying, because like my views on commerce and capitalism are probably a little bit different than yours, even though we come from the same place. Because I kind of feel what's happening, it's an all or nothing proposition, and we have to drop all the bullshit and all the fuckery and all the old constructs. But I'm one of those people that, is the ultimate optimist and positive mental attitude, and, to hell with all this, we'll do it anyway. But what you're saying is, essentially, we got the cart before the horse. And in order to, look, essentially what you're saying is, and what we're coming into, in my mind, how that happens and when that happens, totally, I don't know. And anyone that thinks they do is crazy, in my opinion. But we're definitely headed the right way. But that is that instead of, let's just use the example of commerce and exchange and pricing and such. Valuating something based on what? Material, what? Silver's worth this one day and the next day it's down here and, whatever. Commodities. But so what you're saying is we got the first part last and the last part first. And if we go in and we establish the basic universal understanding and application of what goes around comes around, everybody's equal, transparency, another way to put what you're talking about in terms of serving it all would be the Trinity energy. So the Trinity energy is I'm going to serve myself, you, and the collective equally. Every degree is equal in all fashions. Okay, so basically what you're saying is if you get the connection right, the relationship aspect right, the village aspect right, like an ant village where everybody's doing their part, right? Then
Yes.
what happens is everything that comes from that, which is everything, because that's the basic principle, right? That's the basic foundation that supports everything. everything will be designed in that fashion. So commerce will take care of itself instead of commerce being established first and that having an effect or an influence on what relationships are and what connections are and how we feel about each other, basically. Because you and I could do a business deal, and if we don't have the first part first, and we will operate on the old paradigms, we might not be friendly with each other strictly because of the way the rules of the game have been
No,
distorted,
but
right? You know what I mean?
yeah. So I call that the market forcing function. To survive in business, there is a market forcing function where you have to be that way. It has to be win or lose. And I'm saying what you're saying, like win, win, win. It's not win, win. It's win, win, win. And there's three aspects because there's you, there's me, and I call that half of half for each. So half of half for me, half of half for you, and half for everybody else. With one tiny introduction, we use base 12 mathematics for this part of the relationship counting because it's much simpler and it's divisions
Explain
and
that.
additions.
Explain base 12 to us.
Oh, I don't know if I fully understand it because some of these concepts are sort of clear cognizant in my mind. The simple part I know is that in base 12, division by 2, 3, 4, and 6 is built in to the structure of the
Yeah, that makes
numbering
sense. That
model.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So if
of
you're doing
the
half of half, it's a
yeah,
clean number. It's
yeah,
not 0.25 or zero point 0.5 or
yeah.
point, like a third is not 0.333 recurring because I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but I have spent 10 years in IT. When you have a recurring to infinity number, it's quite difficult for a machine to actually calculate that because at some point you have to cram up with an assumption or a heuristic going, hey, enough decimal points. And you like the whole, you're not reflecting reality when you're forcing it through the decimal base 10 or
Well, that's
the
the
other
that's
part.
that's the thing. We're using the wrong tech. We're using machines when we're the real tech.
I I know. So that you get the witness posture and you get the tribe wave because the witness part, the half for everything else, that's the witness part. So once you bring the witness back into exchange, you cannot continue the perpetrator victim mentality because now you have visibility. Now you have brought a third light between two smaller lights. So shadows retreat. And um, that balancing force, that's the tribe. I think that what you mean by the tribe wave is what I call a balancing force, is that choosing to relate in this manner, choosing to see each other as each other's keepers and custodians of what I call it joint custody, because I have kids with an ex-wife, so there's joint custody. I'm like, actually, that's not a bad word for joint custody of nature. And what I said earlier about nature and animals are waiting for us, it's like we are those divine beings that have the creation, the creativity, the imagination. So what is this world we want to imagine? And what are the steps to get there? And that's my invitation. It's like, hey, how's this world working for you? Because if it's working good, keep going. Absolutely, keep going. You think it's great, wonderful, keep going. I just know myself, I've been unemployed for basically 7 years. I because my I want my mind free to be committed to this work. I cannot give a part of it to somebody else to get paid for it. Like I just it takes away from what I need to do this work or what I want to apply to this work. So I'm wary of just I don't it's for me it's very important that it's invitation and it's invitation into joint exploration because I would like to read you a small piece of writing that came to me a little while ago. So this is about 5 years ago, so somewhere in the middle of COVID, all that stuff. And this is how it appeared for me. I trade in knowledge. And to truly understand what that is, to understand its value, we have to share an experience so we can discuss our perspectives and in the discussion meet the expressions of the relationships between, and these relationships are geometric representations of the sacred relationships between us, between sheep and us, between bees and everyone. They serve to remind us of the contributions we have all made towards success. And success, I wrote down the word success then, but what I mean with it now is there's only one real luxury in life, and that's what my wife taught me, and that's a tomorrow you can look forward to. So I want to have it where we can both look forward to our tomorrow, like your tomorrow for you and my tomorrow for me. And we can do this where we can both help each other get there. And to finish it, it's like we honor this rekindling of a relationship. We honor the known points of view and leave space for the unknown, because that's just humility. We don't know everything. We know we don't know, and we know we don't know. And knowledge is the experience and experiments we agree to share. So that's, and the author was Guardianship Community, and we can go into that. But that was, I think, the kernel that became that white paper 5-6 years later, and including that law of one. And it's just something I haven't quite mentioned is I'm very curious about how to create more fertile ground, because there is an ancient prophecy about we don't inherit this earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. So I have 5 kids. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I leave something better for them? Because before my wife had kids, well, before we had kids, she was like, I don't want to bring kids into this world. It's mayhem. Like, why? Why would I bring them here? So we started having kids. I was like, well, I better fix the world so she wants to. Which, and I understand I can't do that on my own. And I've actually come to peace, because my granddad on my mum's side, he taught me something when I was very little, maybe about 8 years old. He had a little hazelnut farm, so hazelnut trees. And 30 years later, just before he sold it, I went to see him, and there was these old, like 30, 40-year-old oak trees, massive oak trees in the bottom of the valley. I was like, what are those? He goes, well, I planted those for you and your sister and your cousin, because I knew that when you were mid-20s, 30s, and you needed to build your house and make your furniture, you would want oak to do it with. So this was a couple of saplings. I planted them, and now 30 years later, there's like $100,000 worth of oak. But that thinking was like, wait, actually, I'm not going to commit to completing the work. I'm going to commit to making the work remarkable. I'm going to, like what Seth Godin calls the purple cow. So how do you make something that people just have to make a remark around? How do you show them that you care for them as deeply as they love themselves? Or how do you remind them, hey, this is how you might consider what self-love is? Because when you treat others, so the thing, just to get very specific for a moment, the business transactions at the moment, the way they work them out is they first choose to disconnect from a relationship, then they price the transaction. And that's the part that I feel is the low level anxiety, because everyone's like, oh, I'm going to miss out. I'm going to miss out. I have to win somebody else. I have to be like, I have to
Is
lead.
it?
I have to
But
do
I
it. Like
mean, if you really think about it, if you really think about this, it's got nothing to do with business at all. It has to do with patterns and templates that are a product of a narcissistic realm. Okay, so this could be non-financial. It could simply be just take a basic relationship. You're married. You've been married before. You know, there's highs and there's lows. It's another reflection of our life involving another person. So, you know, is there this exchange? Are there these rules of the road, let's just say, between the battle of the sexes between Mars and Venus, you know, as an example? You know what I mean? Like, if I do this, you do that. Or if I do this, I expect that, because I have a program or an expectation based on a program, and vice versa. I do think what a big part of what you're talking about that's coming through is an openness. To be open. How can you have? Look, you know, you can look at the Heart Math Institute and the work they've done in terms of the neural network of the heart and the electromagnetic field of the heart. I think we've all kind of gotten to the point now where we realize the proper way to refine our trajectory and our shared experience is to come from the heart, and as a alternative to what we've been doing, which is coming from the mind, which is a questionable things, because there is a mind, you might say, is like I was told. I was told years ago that, soul is the heart and mind of spirit. But there's another mind connotation that comes from the intellect and comes from logic and rationale, left brain thinking, you might say, that has kind of been very, very obtuse, very straight lines, don't wiggle, don't get out of the box kind of thing. So you know what I mean? So like it really what you're talking about really applies to everything, to every connection. How open are you? How open is the other? Because the vastness of our potential together in that. Okay, so if you're standing there, just like if you had 100 people in an organization and you bring one in, now it doubles, right? So whether it's 100 people, I step into your enterprise and now it doubles, or it's just you standing in the circle and I come in with you and now it doubles, okay? So, but regardless of that, the potential of it is going to be predicated on how open are you with me? How open am I with you? Which really means what? Transparency. Transparency.
Yeah.
So
And
this is what we're, because what is telepathy? What is telepathy? I can't really put intuition there. Intuition is more of an instinct, but telepathy is that morphogenetic field that you were talking about. Telepathy is
it's one of that's one of the doors. So
yeah.
that
No,
field is one
I
of the
get that.
doors.
But the point is, it is regulated or predicated, or the potential is proportionate to how open my heart is, how open your heart is, and therefore that other half that we create when I walk in the door that doubles. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to reach the full potential. It's going to be coming down to how open we are with each other, which in another way to say that would be, when I look at you, do I see myself? Do I see equal? Am I with someone that I will treat as equal to myself, whether I've known you all my life or never known you before? You know what I mean? Like we're talking about, like I've been saying for a while, the universe isn't fucking around anymore. It's time to walk the talk. It's time to walk the talk, because if you're saying one thing and you're doing another, or you're ignoring or denying those, for lack of a better word, deficiencies within yourself or misalignments within yourself, the universe is going to come hit you with a big 2x4 at this point. It's not messing around like it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So this is one of the reasons I really like.
This is me attempting to get ahead of that curve.
Yeah, nobody wants to get.
I've had enough base of the head.
Well, you know what I love about this type of approach, and I've seen people starting to come out with this now. We spent so much time on shadow work, and rightfully so. And not that we don't get visited by them now and then, but what I'm saying is, it was 99% of our time. Our ability to be creator beings, was limited until we could get through so many initiations by coming to terms with who we are, by finding out who we're not, which was given to us as we went through the shadows. Now, what I love about this approach, and I'm seeing more of this on the show with people and their ideas, is that this is a creative force. This is a force that comes in and blasts light. Right? You don't have to go, this happened to me and that happened to me, and let's talk about the traumas and the stories anymore, okay? Now that the whole thing has changed. We're not swimming against the current, we're swimming with the current. And there's certain tangible things, constructs, basic universal principles of design, such as recognizing that what goes around comes around, or do unto others. There's so many different ways to say it. So these, the only thing that, and I know there's semantics and there's variations of connotations of words and explanations that we use. The only thing that I don't resonate with is the reference to tomorrow, because to me, our power and our strength and our wisdom and our love and our courage and our peace and our highest potential of creative expression and collaboration and co-creation is in the moment, right now, spontaneously, intuitively, telepathically, imaginatively, courageously, fearlessly. This moment right now, like to me,
Yeah,
like
and I
like
and I and I
yeah,
hear you. I
yeah,
100% hear you.
yeah.
And the reason for that piece being in there is because not everyone is where you and I are. Some of them are at different parts of that
No,
journey.
I
So
get that.
for
I
me,
get.
it's
No, I get
the
that.
invitation.
No,
It's
I
not
totally get
I
that.
and yeah
Yeah, I'm not.
yeah
I'm not. What I was just saying, I wasn't coming down on you. I'm just saying,
yeah
and that's a perfect and proper explanation. There's no question about it. I just feel like that the like I can already tell. Like you and I could talk for days, right? Like everything you're talking about, I just spent a few months, 6 months, 7 months, no, longer than that, 9 months in this little antiquated, authentic Mexican town that I came here by accident. I've spent every night virtually out at the beach with the birds and the breeze, all the elements, the stars, everything, especially in the last 2 weeks. Everything speaking to me in community, everything letting me know how much they love me. All of this is equally occurring within myself, right? It's just this weird math. You know what I mean? It's this weird math. It's like every time we raise the bar within ourselves, it happens. It happens and extrapolates outside of everything. And like you said, it's not just people, and that's so important. But yeah, I love the fact that it's a creative force because the creative force carries the new codes, as I was told. You know, I had worked for years with the soulogy thing and was guided to put up a website and come off of social media in 2023. And I went about a year and a half. And it was fine. I mean, we had many people come. It was healthy financially. However, there were too many old constructs in the organizational infrastructure. And I'm not talking about policies and stuff like that, because anyone that knows anything about soulogy knows there's no dogma, there's no doctrine. But it was the elements of the old energetic patterns to include that give and take that you're transforming with your method, infusing your method into the old business model. So it had to be shut down, and that higher intelligence, I feel, is what's starting to really show itself, because the things that are coming from it don't make any sense by the old world. Like
yeah. So
your
that's
method
yeah.
is is new. Like this is like, oh,
Well,
whoever
I
said that?
that's why my title I started putting on yesterday on the emails was heretic. It's like it felt like the closest thing to close with, because you're speaking against what is considered religious fact in business terms. I do want to inject one thing that I feel is vital in this concept, and that's the we see this as a form of service. So I'm building this as a form of service, and the service specifically is verification, because we can choose to trust one another with very little, if even zero information. You can choose to trust another person, and if you want that trust to carry over time, it's really powerful to be able to verify that what was said was done, what was done was said. So part of the structure, to get in the weeds a little bit, is that everybody has the same access to the same information. Because in the business, you have customers outside and business people inside. I'm saying, no, we are the one circle. Some of us have got different roles. So what it does is when you choose to do commerce for connection in this manner, and with the ability to verify, you take away the ability to form shadows and to act in shadowy behavior. And that to me was a key principle to embody in some way, shape, or form going forward. It's like I want to be transparent, because that to me is simple symbiosis. Like a big piece of inspiration was the Wood Wide Web and the Secret Life of Trees book. I was like, oh wow, okay, how do we do that? Like, because this is the most natural thing in the forest. They all prosper because they all feed each other. I was like, well, that can't be that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my go-to. My go-to is the trees, and that's one of the big things out at the beach because there's this row of coconut trees, and so I spend time with them, and I have since I reawoke. That was the first thing I was told. The very first thing I was told when I had this reawakening in 2011 was it's all about the trees, and I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean, but so I've had a relationship with them over the years. But one of the main things that I've learned from them is what you're talking about, which is the network that they have. If you're talking to one tree, you're talking to all the trees. And so I've worked with them over the years. Like, for instance, if I want to send an open-hearted, positive, energetic expression across the world, let's just say, I will go to the trees and I will tap into their network, which if you really visualize it, like when I go to the beach, I'm literally, because some of the roots you can actually see on a coconut tree on the beach, I'll put my feet there, I can feel them. I'm going into the earth, I'm connecting with the other ones, and then even into the ocean before me. Because we got to remember, there's all kinds of plant kingdom connectivity running beneath our feet as well as beneath the ocean or in the ocean. You know what I mean? So it's a powerful, powerful thing. What you're introducing on the surface, it sounds more limited because we struggle with this because we're having new words and new meanings come into our existence. But when you start to look into the depths of what you're talking about, you're really talking about, it reminds me of, speaking of books, let me finish the comment. What you're really talking about is implementing the basic universal design into your daily life. So if you look at a book like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, or you look at Path of the Peaceful Warrior, or Siddhartha, or so many different books that
The Secret Atom.
Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if you look at, and this is what I'm finding in my own, because see, I just got orders this past weekend, and I love it here, and it's been great, and I'm thriving, and it's cheap, and it's beautiful, and my soul came in and said, you're leaving, you're going to the mountains now. You're going back to the United States, you're going to the mountains. I'm thinking, oh my God. But I understand that message isn't just for me. It's for the mountains that I will encounter, the trees I will encounter, the animals, the people, the spirits. You mentioned something earlier about the planting the seeds of the oak trees, right?
Yeah.
Like that's 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 the last thing I'll say. Another thing that you're bringing up, and I know there's a lot of narratives especially in the light worker starseed circles, narratives of of this bad people and this and that fuckery and this thing happened and all that. And I'm not saying it didn't happen because I know it did. I do. However, there is very strong evidence that if you can take your polarity out of what you can research in terms of historical evidence, and you've got to use discernment because a lot of the history's bullshit. But one thing you can say is that there are many things that have been left behind that were giving us instructions or giving us a heads up as to what has occurred before and what may occur again, to include the cyclical nature of the precession of the equinox, the movement of the stars, the different zodiac signs and phases that the earth has gone through. And I see that too in your creation, is that you're remixing like a DJ. You're remixing the basic universal principles into a contemporary situation or arena that has new dynamics that are that are new because they have occurred in our lifetime, in our latest incarnation, right? So this is much deeper than words on a paper. This is much deeper than even a discussion. This is an energetic reemergence of the basic universal principles that are unfuckwithable, no matter
That
what world you're in.
yeah, and thank you. It means a lot. Um, I I have purposely been hiding in small towns and corners of the world while I get on with this work because I just get to be left alone. And as uncomfortable as this is, as uncomfortable at becoming an academic, like who the fuck ever dreamed of being an academic, writing white papers and creating like new coordination systems or just like I did not. This was not on the like bingo cards or whatever the term is. However, it's here and it's my like I in front of me, with me, is my ability to respond. So I can choose to react. And I will relate that to what you said before. When people choose to react, so they're reenacting a previous experience, it's keeping them inside of the circle. There is no growth, there is no shrinking, they're just spinning in a circle. That's the thing returning over and over again. What I'm presenting, the invitation I'm offering for people to consider, is how to go out of the circle into a spiral, how to return to growth by just cumulatively doing the smallest little step every day. That's why for us it's important to, like, we just start in the bathroom and we just do the daily cleansing ritual. Don't change what you do. Keep doing what you do. Keep washing, keep showering. But just understand that who you are feeding with the money you provide and who is feeding you with the products that you get. And be very clear and very open about how you are feeding each other. That's my invitation. Because at the moment, there's almost no way. There is some things on the fringes and the edges, and I love it. It's just our runway is not as long as we think it is. And this is not my first time with a front row seat, so I'm like, okay, what didn't work last time? Skip that stuff. What might work this time? Try that. And that's where this inspiration comes from, because a lot of it is what you said before about trees. One of my teachers is in Maori myth called Tana Mahuta, like the Lord of the Forest, the biggest tree. And their story about him, I felt differently to how they say it, because they say that he separated the earth and the sky, and so his brothers and sisters could lay in the middle. And I felt that he was the one that gave the first breath, the one breath we share. So when you say you connect the trees around the world and they feel like one, that's, in my sense, it's they are, because we are with them together, the one breath we share. We're in this constant exchange of oxygen and carbon. Like, we're just doing this constant exchange between us. And my invitation is, hey, let's acknowledge that. Let's honor that, because that's priceless. So there's no point trying to price that. But let's
Yeah.
acknowledge it. And that's what the half for tomorrow, the hope for tomorrow, that's just, and all of this is an invitation, because I really, I get icky when I feel like I'm prescribing. I'm happy to describe. I'm happy to invite. I do not want to command or use a should or a could.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they
I think
just
I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying all the way around. I totally get what you're
yeah.
saying. And I, in that last part too, where, when I've had many people on this show, and I'll hear, well, we need to do this, and we have to do that, and that's when they lose me. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't need to do anything. I don't have to do shit. It may be in my best interest and all of our best interests if I do what you're saying or whatever the case is. But so I'm gonna kind of package this up a little bit. Our friend
Yep.
Dor was saying, "Can you clarify?" And I'm pretty sure I know where this question involves, right? So
Okay.
so here's the thing about the bottom line, or let's just say the X factor, or the integral part Okay, if you don't have this, you don't have shit. And whether it's your enterprise, whether it's my enterprise, whether it's whatever. And we're talking about right now, this time and space, this incarnation, where we're at, 2026, March 19th. It's self-regulated. Its basis is the aligned autonomy of an individual. The basis of it is that it runs like an ant farm, okay? Or I had a friend, you were speaking of the Maori, I have a friend that lived in an Aboriginal village with her son, okay, for quite some time in northwestern Australia. And she said it was crazy. I'd wake up in the morning and everybody's moving. Everybody's, doing this, doing that. Nobody's really talking. Everybody they're like ants or like bees, right? So they have this cultural ingrained understanding that's second nature in terms of the way that the whole works. The drop in the ocean's in the drop kind of thing. So this is the basis for what you're talking about. It's a fascinating.
Maybe I reframe. Yeah, I'll reframe it like this: an ant knows how to be an ant, and a bee knows how to be a bee. We have forgotten how to be truly social creatures. So the invitation from the invitation from the bees that I speak to, is, hey, study us, learn from us, remember how to be truly creatures in a social, social surrounding or social condition or social, what's the bloody word? Social setting. So this is almost like here's an instructional manual to consider relearning how to do that. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I
get that. I totally get that.
Decent invitation.
No. Well,
but it's almost like an operating system of how to remember to be social by design.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that totally. That's what I'm saying. It's like that. See, it's like this. It's like, okay, so we're standing here and what we know to be true and what we're shooting for is over there. The question is, how do we get from here to there? Because we're still having to use certain elements that we're familiar with in our conscious state. Of number one, language, communication. Even though we don't want to tell people you have to do this and you need to do that, there still has to be some instruction and explanation. So that's not something we can get away from. So you have these different aspects that you have to contend with, especially now as we're moving further and faster and our bandwidth is getting wider. And that would involve geometry, that would involve semantics, that would involve physics, that would involve human nature, that would involve still shedding the skins of the conditioning and the programming. There's belief systems. There's so many things. What you're representing and what you're creating is the expansion, the sustainment and the expansion, therefore, of the one mind, of what you called, and I said that's the same as the Trinity. Okay, so in other words, even and so again, this even applies to things that are not related to, let's just say, money or commerce. For instance, food. A lot of people have been going through a lot of changes with their diet. I'm one of them, okay? Like I'm rocking and rolling and I love to eat and I love to do, have a beer and this and that and, and do my work, work hard, play hard, whatever. But what I've noticed over the last year and a half, I don't eat a lot of meat, but if I do, I'm in Mexico, tacos and stuff. It's become a second nature relationship. I won't even use the term habit. That when I sit down with food, I have to acknowledge every bit of it. If it's tortillas, I have to acknowledge the corn. I have to acknowledge the mother and the daughter that made the tortillas. I have to acknowledge the relative that I'm eating their meat. Or the plant. I don't see them any different. You know what I mean? I talk to the plants and I said, what if I cut you down? Doesn't that hurt? Well, that's what we're here for. It's just a different perspective. It's a different type of incarnation. It's like a rock, or a mountain can sit there for eons, right? Or a tree
Done
for
that
hundreds
one.
of years. You know what I mean? Me too. So you know what I mean? So it's really, it's really like the stars told me the other night. I've had this particular set of star systems and constellations talking to me for about almost a month now. And they said to me, we are your grandmothers, your grandfathers, your aunties, your uncles. We are your relatives. At the same time, we're your history. You tap in, you can see where you've been, what you did, how you got here. But at the same time, we're still. So it's that drop in the ocean, ocean the drop again. They are me, and I am them. So just as much as my higher self is giving me information, my soul is giving me information, whatever you want to call it, I'm giving them information too, right? And this is where the rub is to me, is like we're in this physical, dense vessel, yet we're coming into the awareness, because that's number one. Once a brother like you introduces us to something, and like right now what you've done for me, and you stimulate that which is common between us within me, you're sharing with me what I haven't quite picked up, and vice versa, right? So this is where we're at, and we're in the physical. Look, this is why our bodies are changing to crystalline. There's so many people, including myself at 64 years old, I shouldn't be in the shape I'm in right now. There's so much going on here, but it is predicated, I believe, on our conscious thoughts, words, and actions. And that's why enterprises or initiatives like what you're doing are so important, because that's the real value, if we want to use that word. That's the real payoff of them, is it's a band of frequencies being reintroduced into our consciousness, and so we can wake the fuck up. and not
Wow.
just say, hey, I'm awake and I'm aware and I get it. No, we didn't just come to be to come into this awareness of old. We came to do something with it, and that's what you're talking about. It's not just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's also constructing something in a fashion that's never been constructed before, because it's made up of components of this experience, which we have now transformed and found the gold in, right?
Yes.
Remixes. We're like DJs.
Yeah. So there is an aspect of what you talk about, the ancestors, and being there at the same time with them. And there is a part of me in touch with the group of us that made it through. And that through their eyes, through their feelings, through their senses, I can see where they are. I can see how they got to, because I can study their history. So I'm doing my best translation. I don't know quite what the right word is, to communicate that in the language of the time now. Because it's not like they have the same language. It's not like they have the same concepts or even the same symbols. So one of my goals is just to be as clear, not even a channel, but conduit, just as clear as I can for what needs to come through. Because I have one very deep and one very simple belief. All of it is me. Whatever comes through me can only come through me because it's come from me. It cannot be something else. So that part is now easy. It took me a little while to get to that, but it's easy. The other part is I've always been accused of, it's the nicest way of putting it, of thinking too much. You think too much. You think too much. And I finally, just listening to you now in this conversation, I finally feel like, no, my gift for thinking has found a home. And my gift for thinking is being presented as a gift out to my brothers and sisters, because this is what I can contribute. Because I see it, like, trust me, I would much rather somebody else do this work. I'd much rather somebody else have figured this out, so I could just like follow like
Yeah,
everybody
good
else
luck
wants
to you. Good luck with that
But
shit.
nobody was doing it.
Good
No
luck
one was
with
doing
that.
it. So like,
Yeah, I'd like to sit on
okay,
this
I'll
beach and
just
have cervezas and shrimp every day and chill, and do my, you know what I mean? So
I
like,
just I
yeah,
just want to thank you. I really feel in this moment that that gift is just being shared and like slowly going out. And I don't even know what this feeling is, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's moving so fast, and it's funny because, in a sense, we're all talking less. Okay, and I say that, and I do. This is what I do, right? But when I'm not here, most of my time is in silence, right? Most of
Yeah.
my, and I'm just giving myself as an example, but it's the intention. Okay, first of all, the thing about thinking too much. I would imagine that everybody watching has been through this because, we woke up and our family told us we were crazy and all that. We've all been through that. A lot of us have been in psych wards and in jails, and some of us both, including me, right? So, but my point is this thinking too much thing. There's a difference between being in your head and the loop playing around and around and around, and the imagination being hijacked by the illusion of the reality of these things that are creating this loop. Now, there's another thing where you might say it's intellect, but it's utilizing a direct relationship. Its ideas and thoughts are originating from intelligence. And this intelligence that I'm talking about is the same intelligence that pervades in your initiative, in your work. And that is that, look, the trees have helped me straighten my back out. The trees have delivered messages for me. The birds have come and told me that was done, or you're right, or you get truth frequencies, or you get chills, or you hear tones. So there is a universal field that we're walking in that, for whatever reason, and I'm sure it's perfect in its design and there's no bad guys, and I mean that, it was meant as a catalyst for further growth of our individual souls and therefore the universal. And so we're coming into ourselves in this environment, and it's wild. And I'll give you one last example. Years ago, like, I don't know if you know this, but when I reawoke 6 weeks later, I lost everything. Family, the job, money, possessions. I had nothing. 49 years old. And I knew to go homeless. Like, I went homeless by choice because my soul said, this is what you got to do, right? One of the things that they told me.
Can I just pause there for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because you've said something wonderful, and I just want to double back on it and really expand. I made the choice. That is you keeping your power and sovereignty. Even in the moment of weakness or low point or something, you remember that the one thing you have absolute command over is what you choose. I just want to acknowledge that, because that's such a powerful self. Like the amount of self-love expressed in that is, to most people, potentially unfathomable, because they're not quite there with their own love for self yet.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge that that's just hearing someone say that makes, it's so powerful to just.
Oh, thank you for that.
Sorry.
See, look, we're already at an hour and a half. We're gonna have to do this again. We'll have to do this again next month.
Okay.
No, we'll just no. I find that's what happens on, as time goes on. The 90 minutes isn't enough. It's and I've done shows 3 and 4 hours, and but I think 90 is a good. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, and I kind of forgot what I was saying. I was making reference to when I went.
Oh, you lost everything, and you went homeless.
But yeah, there was I was just telling you my background because in that time, especially the first 7 months, there was like 3 phases of 7 to 9 months. It was over a 2-year period. So I would get a lot of information walking around all the time, and it was in regard to what you were just talking about. And I can't recall. There was a lot of things that I received. One of them, and a lot of these were done in nature, but one of them was because I had kids, and I had, for years I'd had, responsibilities. I'd held national positions with the biggest companies in my industry and so on. So now I'm homeless, right? And I heard, which again is kind of the basic component in to me in the universal equation in terms of, like say, the Trinity, or how it functions, or Vesica Pisces, or the flower of life. You know, I was told the best thing you can do for yourself, for the other, and for the collective is to be in the best possible spiritual health that you can be in, which means to live, to walk the talk, to align your thoughts, words, and actions. And of course, everybody's a work in process, but there's a real magic to this, you know? Like I'll give you one last example. Like many people, have been through a lot, especially in the last year and a half, 2 years. It's been moving like crazy, especially since the solstice came in 2024 and the 12-year Mayan calendar thing ended, right? So 25 and now 26. And, you know, for me to get the guidance, and you know how this works, you start getting, oh, I think something's coming, or I think something's coming. And you might even tell a friend, I think I'm going to be on the move. And I get this guidance over the weekend after being told, you're going to get this guidance on the weekend, you're leaving now. Okay? And I mean, I just have as much stuff as I did when I was homeless. You know, I got a couple of suitcases and a briefcase, and I'm done, right? And so it's a bit, and then the human part comes in, and the doubts and all that stuff happen. But you make the choice, no matter how minute it may seem. And what I'm finding is, more than ever, the universe responds in the abundance frequency. And abundance is not just commerce or monetary. It's our natural nature. It's our natural nature. Yeah. It's driven by this open heart. It dictates synchronicities, telepathy, et cetera, et cetera.
That what you're sharing is exactly the reason why I chose to put the relationship in the middle, because the true wealth is the health of you, and one of those 4 pillars of health, like body, mind, and spirit. Yes, fine, we know about those. Your social health and those relationships, and I mean what I said earlier, all relationships. So when you center your life around acknowledging and honoring those relationships, you are centering and acknowledging that those relationships are your abundance. They are the same.
Yeah. And it's can be, especially when you start to consider time isn't what we thought, space isn't what we thought, distance. So that statement that you're making isn't just exclusive to my children and my parents and my siblings and my partners, ex-partners. I don't have a partner, but my point is it's no different. Okay, I'll give you another example. I've never had pets my whole life. A couple here and there, but they didn't last long because it just wasn't something that was in the field. I come here, and all of a sudden I'm having all these animal encounters, and they're teaching me something. They're teaching me that they're a soul. They're talking to me as souls. Look at me. I got this from a cat. The cat says to me, don't look at me like you think what I am. Look at me as a soul. I think, whoa. Well, the trees have the same vibe. So I'm at the beach. I'm at the beach one night, and I'm sitting there communing, and everything's going the way it's going, and I'm having that intelligence is feeding, or however that works, and I'm just taking it in, and not one, not two, but 3 different white animals came to me, right? A white bird, 2 white dogs, actually, twins, and a white horse. And when I say came to me, I mean they didn't come right up to me. The bird kind of did, and the dogs came and sat next to me, and the horse was a guy riding it. But these are the synchronicities and the signs and the signals. This is the language, and I'm very, very convinced that as time goes on, we will be speaking less with our mouths and more, with our field in terms of, the heart, the voice of the heart and the soul, however you want to put it. I think this has been a fantastic 90 minutes. It's been a great pleasure to sit down with you. I'd like to do this again next month. I'm going to be on the road the 24th, and I think the next shows I have set up are right around the very end of the month. But in April, I've already. Here's another example. I made this move. I don't know where I'm going. I've got all my furniture. I've got all my furniture at my mother's house in Houston. But although I'll be in the area and see her often, I don't know that I will be staying there. It doesn't feel right? So my daughter and her boyfriend, they've been together for a few years, just rented a house, a very cool house, in a very significant neighborhood in Houston that has been a big part of my journey, my family's journey. And she says to me, "Hey, Dad, we've got this studio in the back of the lot, and it's about 300 plus square feet, you know." And so anyway, long story short, she sends me a video last night. And it just so happens that the space, the size of it is the same size as the bulk of this apartment, so I could get a good idea of how much room I had to work with. And the rate is the same rate I'm paying here, which is hardly anything, $500 a month American, and all bills paid. But my point is, it unfolded naturally in front of me. So now I know one thing. I may not know where I'm going, but at least I have a home base in a small studio next to my family, you know, et cetera, in the neighborhood that means a lot. So these are the things that are happening. The universe is meeting us. And even a discussion like this, I'm positive that certain things will be revealed and that connections will be made as a result just of this first show, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and
what I mean?
I really appreciate you inviting me on board.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you reaching out, and your friend, whoever she is, I can't remember her name, but Layla, yeah. That was a very nice message, and you know, I try to stay totally open to, you know, anyone and everyone. But yeah, sometimes, you know, when you take a chance, you know, I haven't had any bad experiences though in the last couple of years. I mean, it's just everybody seems to be coming into the same field of experience, and we're recognizing it, even though some of that recognition might still be unconscious. But you can feel it, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I look forward to it. And let me just say, blessings of peace, grace, and love to you and your wife and your children and your endeavors. And I look forward to getting together with you next month and continuing this conversation if you're up for it.
Yes, absolutely. I would just want to say that peace be with you and to all the listeners the same.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And if anyone, I'll just let you know, if you haven't seen the post, we'll be back in an hour and a half with Shekinah Grace. Never met her before either, so it should be expansive. And we'll see our brother here next month. I can promise you that. I'll reach out to him and we'll schedule something. So peace out, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, my brother. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.